And so I began to kind of have this idea, and another friend of mine, we were brand new believers, and we wanted to put some legs to this thing we believed, and we believed there was a good message of hope and forgiveness. And he went a different way. He went to academia, and today he is the senior pastor of Wolfville Baptist Church. But when I wound up at Acadia Divinity College and developed a friendship with a brother there, and we began to do this together. Before that time, while I was a student, I rented a room from a very kind lady who was quite devout, and she was quite patient as one of her boys and myself would fill up one of her living rooms with people we would find out there, and pray with them and do all those things. So it's hard for me when I think of when did this whole thing start. I think there's some things that we do that they start at the beginning, don't they? They start at the beginning. They're built in who we are, and I think it's at the foundation. I had many people be kind to me, and I didn't respond the way maybe they hoped I would. It was many years later when I contacted some folks who'd been really kind to me and opened their home to me at a time when I needed it as a troubled youth. And I remember calling and letting them know that I'd had an encounter with the Lord, and my life was going a different direction. I remember them being overjoyed that was happening, and I wasn't sure, nor were they, what that would look like. Ended up back in my home community, and maybe some of you have some history. We all have history of some sort, but not everybody is dragged out in the open. It's not easy to come back to your hometown when you have a checkered past, a colorful history. But we worked through that, and I found that has actually served me really well, and it's been a tool for connecting with people. So in 2003, 2002, we started connecting with people and realized that it was great to develop that relationship with someone, have a coffee with them, get them lunch, pray with them. Sometimes you'd pray with them and they would say, hey, I want to follow Jesus too, right? And so those things would happen. Not always, but, and of course that their ability to stay with us wasn't contingent upon them jumping through any religious hoops. I want to make that really clear. But sometimes those things would happen, or they just say simply, I'm tired, sick and tired of being sick and tired, and insanity and sobriety sound like things I'd be interested in. So when those things would happen, it was deeply painful to say, okay, well, good luck, sleeping in that alley or that shed or wherever, and we'll catch up tomorrow or catch up Monday. So we began to look at that, and Wolfville Baptist actually was the first location that we offered shelter on a regular basis. So we did for the first year, it was at Wolfville Baptist. We had 33 guests that year, and for varying lengths of time, and we used a Sunday school classroom, and the pastor was great, and he's retired now, so I can say this, but the deal was they had to be out early, and the deacons didn't need to know. Sorry, Pastor Jeff, that's a nightmare scenario, right? But it worked. And then we began to realize very quickly, which I guess we kind of knew the dynamic, but that was the place it was offered. We discovered that Kentville was kind of the epicenter in Eastern Kings for sure, Eastern Kings, for sure, the epicenter of need. That was the place because of the courts and the hospitals and social workers and all of those things. And I wouldn't say that Middleton is so dissimilar from that, and that there are people drawn here because of a variety of resources in this area, Middleton and area, right? So that whole thing grew. We really, at the heart of it, shelter was never really the locus of what we were trying to achieve. And I would say that's the same now. Is what we really want to achieve is we want to be present with people. We want to build a relationship with people. And yes, for myself and many others, our hope is to be able to point them so that they can choose to follow or not follow. We want to create that options. We want to share the good news of God's forgiveness through Christ. And so that doesn't mean that everyone who comes and volunteers with us is church involved or even shares that same thing, but so far it's always worked out. We've had these wonderful friendships with people. They've never actually said it, the ones, if anyone does think we're crazy for the faith motivation, no one's ever said it. In fact, they love that part of who we are, even some of the people who are maybe not in the same place. And like I said the other night, we had a meeting in Kentville with a program that's up and going there, and we all have a motivation. And my motivation is probably a mix. My motivation is, yes, my faith. So myself and my co-divinity school student, it was a faith motivation, but it was also that we both come from a background with some homelessness, some addiction, some personal experience. And at the meeting we were in the other night, one of our longtime ministry partners is a guy named Bruce, and he's a lovely guy, and he's become a good friend, and you work together long enough, in works of faith, and it's like, who's family and who's not, right? And so when our kids, to this day, 'cause he's worked with us for 17 years, he retired from Michelin and came to help out with shelter, and he's just never left. And so when our kids, our daughter has her second child, when they invite people, we want the list of family, it's always these other names, and it's like, how did that happen, that these people are our family now? It's a beautiful thing. But I used him as an example at a meeting the other night. This guy he's the most innocent character, had a pretty sheltered life, and God bless anyone who did. But, and you might look and say, why does he do this? I want to say, if you're here and you think, what if I run into someone who does drugs and I've never done drugs? Well, love trumps everything, right? Experience is fine, but that experience without a transformation, without turning that over, is pretty useless, actually. And Bruce, but then to add into that, Bruce had a street-involved brother who died as a street-involved person. So everyone has a reason why they care, and faith is a good reason. Personal experience is a good reason. Witnessing someone you love is a good reason. And once you connect with people, however many people you make that kind of connection with relationally, you'll have more reasons to care. So.